Welcome back to the Joe Schmo Experience. Let's talk about Christian summer camps and Hume Lake. All right, welcome back to beautiful sunny California. If you guys have listened to my first episode, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much. I don't really know how many people are going to listen. I'm really not doing too much advertising, and I'm really hoping to get into the real fun meat and potatoes starting this episode. So I know episode 1 was a little dry, and I'm trying my best to make things a little bit more wet. All right. Oh, that didn't sound right. All right. Anyways, moving on. So just a couple quick things before we go. Just keep a lookout for new episodes. Always make sure you interact with me on Twitter, or is it called X now? I don't know what Elon is doing, or Instagram, those sort of things. We should be good to go on that. All right, today's topic. I was talking with some students today. I'm currently teaching summer school. I just recorded the first episode, by the way, like 2 days ago. So if I refer to it in this recording, it's pretty close. All right. So I was just talking to a few students about just different experiences that we've had throughout our lives. So we're talking about primarily because a lot of my kids are religious, either Catholic or Christian, and they're talking about summer camp because it's summertime. And, if you're not a non-domer or a, that's what I call non-denominational people. If you don't practice the non-dom or whatever, I don't really know if other religions have a summer camp like stereotypical Christian churches do, but we're going to talk about that pretty heavily. Now, I grew up Catholic. I am Portuguese, so I grew up very, very Catholic, and then my grandma left the church, went to more of a non-denominational church, and my family kind of followed along. So summer camp was kind of a weird deal, and I remember when my brother ended up dying, my mom really was searching for answers, and we got kind of led to a church near our hometown in Morgan Hill, California, where I grew up. Okay. So this church was your basic, normal, non-denominational church. Lots of singing, big theatrics almost, just almost like a show when you go in there. It's really, really typically motivational. Sometimes they get, pretty emotional as we go on. So just kind of the setting of the church. We didn't really go too often, and we only went because my best friend at the time, Daniel, shout out to Daniel if you're listening. I hope you're doing well, man. He's definitely not listening. I don't know. I don't even know why I did that. That was the weirdest thing I could have ever done. Anyways, Daniel, best friend at the time, 8th grade. I wanted Daniel to go on a family vacation with us to Mount frickin' Rushmore, which, by the way, sucks. No offense to any of you South Dakotans, but Mount Rushmore is terrible. There are other better things out there than Mount Rushmore. All right. So the caveat was that Daniel didn't want to go alone to his church summer camp. So I had to go. My mom thought it'd be a good thing for me just to go to this summer camp. My brother just died. So I was like, maybe it's good for old Joe to go to the summer camp. Right. So as that goes on, we end up taking a summer camp to a place called Hume Lake. And we're going to kind of zoom out a little bit. And we're going to learn a little bit about Hume Lake. I don't know a whole lot about Hume Lake because a lot of the stuff is very secretive. But Hume Lake, to give you guys who are not from the Fresno or Central Valley or even California area, Hume Lake is basically a multi-site youth and adult camp center. So they do youth camps and adult retreats. They are very heavily geared towards religion. Okay. They tend to partner with churches, but they also have schools and sports teams, kids sports teams, and other groups that create a pretty distraction free environment. Most Hume Lake is, at the time, cell phones were very, minimal. I have flip phone, but, at this time, Hume Lake, when the story was, there was really no cell phone service. So it was kind of nice up there because you can get away from the phone. Right. And so it says here, create distraction-free environments where they encounter Jesus Christ and experience the gospel at play. I've never heard those words before. The gospel at play? What does that even mean? The gospel at play. All right, we move on. So on their website, which is what I'm on right now, They have quite a few things about their mission statement. They want to accept Jesus Christ as a personal savior, grow in their faith, establish priorities of prayer, Bible study, Christian fellowship, and devote their lives to service. Typical non-denominational stuff. These are very typical non-dom stuff, which I want to preference before I continue. I do identify as a Christian. I do really believe in a lot of those things. Call me stupid, call me whatever. That's what I believe in. But there's some things here where I'm looking as kind of an outsider where I'm like, this is freaking crazy. Like the stuff I went through, I'm about to share with you guys is literally insane. And this is not what a lot of churches stand for. So I just want to be really upfront and honest. If you're listening, you're like, this guy's going to hell for sure. I might be, but I really do believe in Jesus Christ, that sort of thing. Now, if you turn off this podcast, whatever. But if you're still sticking through, man, it's going to be a good story. I promise you. It's not going to be all, about loving Jesus. This is just a place that we're talking about. We're not talking necessarily about the religion. We're talking about the place, and the place is the problem. Oh, did I give away a little bit too much of the podcast? I might have. This place is an issue, right? We'll get there. So very typical stuff. They do have multiple locations, but let's listen to their video. Okay. Now I know you can't see this, but I just want you to listen to this video. It's pretty incredible. It shows like pretty serene pictures. You can hear people talk about it. It's a pretty nice video. So let's just listen to it. It's only like a minute or two long. So let's just give it a little gander. Okay. Okay. It starts off the lake, the trees. It's lovely, right? Okay, this is great.
Hume is such a special place to me.
I feel like I've been doing camp ministry for a while, but at Hume, this is
where you are just away from distractions.
Disconnecting them from the world, plugging them straight into Jesus.
I feel like girls literally left saying to me the next day that they realized God was real.
Oh
I've really gotten to see God's creation,
and it's definitely been the best experience of my life.
But I learned so much that I give my life to Jesus.
They're showing all the games they play right now, all the fun stuff, the ice skating, because they have winter retreats. They're showing like everything super cool.
For the sins of the world.
The speakers.
3 days later, he conquered death, and that gave us victory over sin and death.
I owe my life to him because how much he's done for us.
Now I want to go out of camp and share it and actually apply his word to my life.
A moment of impact with Jesus creates a ripple that reaches generations. That's what it says on the screen. Hume. Wow. That's incredible. I'm so very pumped for Hume Lake. Right? And it looks cool. Like literally. So back to my story. We go to Hume Lake. We drive up as our youth pastor, a couple other staff takes a bunch of students up there. And we drive into this lake. It's like out of a movie almost. I want you to picture like grown-up style kind of movie. There's a big lake. There's like one of those blob things where you jump on it and the other person launches off. There's one of those right in the center of the lake. And it's so freaking cool, right? And you're like, oh my God, like this is so cool. Like you pull up to a store, everyone's like, oh my God, this is so sick. Everything is super cool. And we're all like just looking around, people riding bikes, having fun. It's a big property. Like there's multiple spaces and it's almost like a small town up there. It's really honestly pretty incredible. Like you just come out of the forest and boom, there's a town and everyone looks like they're having fun. It's almost out of like a weird movie. Now at this time I was like looking around, looking at my friend Daniel. I'm like, dude, this is going to be so fun. Like there's a lake and a blob in the lake. I've always wanted to do one of those little blob things where you sit on it and someone jumps. And Daniel's like, this is going to be sweet. Well, our youth pastor gets back into the car. He's like, our camp's up the road, guys. And we hops in the van. We drive down this road and it turns into a dirt road. And then someone comes to our van and says, all right, we got to get off here. And we have to hike into the woods. And on the sign, it said Wildwood on it. Now, let's take a little break. Let's look at Camp Wildwood. Camp Wildwood is a separate camp. Now, Hume Lake is actually almost like a corporation almost. There's Hume Lake, which is the main one. There's Hume, New England, which is in, I think, let's look at their website. Oh, yeah, it's in Monterey, not California, Monterey, Massachusetts. We don't have to watch that video. There's Hume, SoCal, which is in the San Bernardino Mountains. That's cool. And then there's kind of an institute called JWI, or Joshua Wilderness Institute. And I believe that is for college students. Yeah, in partnership with Biola University. So it's college students, Socratic cohort style class. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. Oh, they go on trees. Look at, they're riding camels. They went to Israel and the Dominican Republic. Oh my God. That's so sick, dude. They have speakers. They go Joshua Fest. Joshua Fest right there, JWI. Which JWI kind of sounds like Jehovah's Witness Institute, which is probably not what they aimed for. So when does the program start? That's wild. That's a whole topic for another time, but let's get back to Camp Wildwood. So there's multiple camps at this site. All right, let me scroll down. Oh, there's Dr. John Bull. He is currently the executive director. I have a lot of questions for you, Dr. Bull. And I would, if you for some reason stumble upon this podcast, I would be more than willing to talk to you. Anyways, moving on. Let's look at some of the youth camps they offer here. So I did Camp Wildwood, which is called a summer discipleship camp. Okay, there's also winter camps. There's wagon trains. Looks like there's team sports camps. Oh, wow. Spiritual emphasis, which is another school discipleship retreat. So it's a whole school coming on up instead of like a youth group or something. That's cool. Ponderosa. Ponderosa is the fun one. All right, I didn't know there was fun ones and there was non-fun ones. Ponderosa seems to be the one that everyone kind of universally likes. Let me click on this link real quick. Yeah, it looks super sick. And the price is really high too. It's about $900 without a counselor. Right, so there's always a really creative theme, local ministry, activities, dynamic worship, amazing location. Ponderosa is the one you want to go to. There's some outdoor educations like science camps, Meadow Ranch, which is a middle school camp. There's Metarosa, which is a middle school and high school summer camp. Sorry, I kind of burped there. That was weird. Huckleberry Camp, which is birth through kindergarten. And then a day camp, which is 1st through 6th grade. Okay. Sorry, I'm looking at this website. I'm getting lost. Okay, let's move into Camp Wildwood. I think we should just listen to the video. There's no other way we should go about this instead of just listening to the Camp Wildwood video. Okay, here we go. I'm going to do less talking on this video. It's a minute long, so it's just a little less talking so you can kind of just get the full essence of crazy. Okay, here we go.
Wildwood has been
A little technical difficulties here. Let's try it again.
Wildwood has been one of the greatest biblical and spiritual experiences of my entire life.
It was just really cool to see God's beauty at Wildwood, just in nature.
Being in community with others and having a ton of fun and how intentional that fun was, it's really just amazing to kind of see the gospel come to life here.
All the free time that we have and the solo times were really great, and I got to connect with God even more.
So we get to unpack deeper in God's word what it looks like to be a follower of Christ Jesus and get to pray for them and counsel them from the word of God.
Then you're bonding and just really feeling like a family. It's been so sweet to see the body of Christ coming together.
And it's just so amazing to just see how their life can change just from spending a week with God in the mountains.
Wow. Okay, so they man, this is giving me really bad flashbacks right now. So they're definitely playing some non-denominational music, as you heard. They're singing. But Wildwood's interesting. So to give you a little bit of a precedence on Camp Wildwood. So Camp Wildwood is a camp literally in the middle of nowhere. You have to hike into it, and hiking out is they use an old fire road to get you to the camp. And essentially there's a bunch of military tents set up, and you're camping in these military tents. There's a wooden base that you walk through, and there's all these military style tents with cots inside that you sleep in. Okay. And it's pretty typical stuff in terms of camping. There's a bathroom kind of in the middle-ish of the camp, and there's a big kitchen towards the front of the camp with a large grass outdoor area towards the side of said camp. Okay. So now we kind of get a little bit of a outlook of how Wildwood is kind of placed. Let's kind of look at a little bit crazy here. Let's see. Why choose Wildwood? The gospel isn't merely one ingredient in our programming mix. It's the reason we do everything we do. Real weird. Okay. Worship, group initiatives, fun activities, which we'll get to in a minute. International community. They believe that international community within your students is vital to discipleship, which there were several international students there. It was kind of wild. Rugged location. And it goes into the theme a little bit about it, right? And you can kind of see the theme. The theme for 2024's Wildwood Camp is called Tabernacled. Okay? Tabernacled. Now, I'll be real honest with you. I don't know what the hell that means. Tabernacle. Tabernacled. It's in like a past tense, maybe? So I Googled search tabernacle like anyone else. So tabernacle in biblical use is a fixed or movable habitation, typically of light construction. Right now, if we look at a church tabernacle, that is a secure and sacred place in which to store blessed sacrament for carrying the sick and others who cannot participate in mass. Okay, let's look up what tabernacled means with an ED. Tabernacled, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is to take up a temporary residence. So, temporary, which makes sense. It's tents and shit, so that would make sense. Oh, I said a bad word. I'm sorry. Which if you look at tabernacle on just Wikipedia, all the pictures, it's literally just tents set up. So that's cool. Okay, cool. So nothing unique then. So anyways, I went to this camp. We had a hike in, and I've never done a hike in my life. Now, prior to this, I was at a graduation party. My brother was out visiting, right? And we were at this party too, and he decides in his infinite wisdom to pants me, which was terrible. Don't recommend that. Well, he pantsed me so bad it ripped my zipper and like the little thing that zips up and the actual zipper track itself, I completely ripped. And I couldn't pull my pants up. So I did what any good little brother would do, and I told him to go F himself. All right, just in front of everyone. My mother, appalled that I said that word, appalled. So what she did was, in order to teach me a lesson, not my brother who, pantsed me, publicly embarrassed me in front of everyone. My mother, no. What she did, she took me to the bathroom and was going to wash my mouth out with soap, go real old school. Okay, which I thought was super cool of her. Not, right? She goes into the bathroom. There's no bar soap. So she takes the liquid soap, dumps it down my throat, and gives me a chemical burn. We don't know about the chemical burn until later, right? But anyway, so back to Camp Wildwood. I'm dealing with this little sore throat. I don't feel good. It's all terrible. Everything is super terrible. And this is gonna be a great time. So we hike in, and our tent is the furthest one out there. And of course, it's called Perseverance. So our tent is super far out. I don't know who half these people are. Actually, I don't know who any of these people are. I only know Daniel. Right, that's all I know is Daniel, and I'm in this wilderness space, and there's no one there. Okay, so anyways, the first night, it's normal. We hang out, we sing songs, right? We go to sleep. The second night, they wake us up at night, 10 o'clock at night, and we're not really asleep. Well, I mean, we're high school kids or middle school kids. We're kind of asleep, but not really. They wake us up and they're like, all right, guys, it's time to go. Now, the whole prior day, we were learning about persecution and the stuff Jesus went through in other countries where people were persecuted against, all that kind of stuff. And we were told that, in other countries, and we were showed videos, I swear to God, of people who were, forced to say that they didn't like God, or they didn't like God, they didn't believe in God, and then, or they would like spare their lives, but all these people were like, I believe in God. Then they would shoot them. And they showed us these videos. It was literally insane. And they would tell us that if anyone says that we don't believe in, or ask us if we believe in God, we have to say yes, even if the consequence is like them murdering our family. Swear to God. Okay, so they teach us all this stuff, and then we wake up, or they wake us up, and they're like, all right, it's time to go for a hike in the middle of the freaking night. So we walk out. We walk probably about 2 miles. It was a 30-minute hike, and I walk about a 15-minute mile, so I would assume it's about 2 minutes. So we hike up around, and they tell us to get us in a group, and it's only about 100 kids there, and they say, all right, you're in a country where Christianity is illegal, and you guys are going to have to find the underground church, and there's going to be gypsies along that can kind of help you. You're just going to wander in this forest dark at night, all right? and you're going to find this underground church, and that's your goal. Right? They're like, all right, well, good. And they start leaving us. Like, all right. Oh, and by the way, the guns and the dogs are not real. And then they leave. You're like, what the hell? The guns and dogs? What are you talking about? The guns and dogs? Are you serious? And then we start hearing gunshots. Right? So now everyone's scrambling. No one knows what's going on. We're close to being asleep. And so we're kind of all dazed and confused. Kids are falling over each other. Right, trying to get away. We don't know where we're going. We're in the middle of the forest. We have no idea. I remember me and Daniel, we found this girl who was a gypsy. I use that term as a quotation there. She was just a random camp worker, and she's like, "Oh, the church is 3 steps to your left and 4 steps." Like, it's random ass directions, and so you're like, "Okay, this is great." So we end up getting a dog finds us. I swear to God, it was a dog. A dog finds us, and a guy approaches us with a gun and shoots the gun at us. Now, it's a blank, thankfully, obviously. I mean, you'd actually never know these days. But they shoot this gun at us, okay? And we immediately get on the ground. They start like questioning us, and then they release us. And we finally make it to our underground church. And the church that is the underground church is actually the youth pastor at the Morgan Hill Church. And he's there. He gives this whole sermon, and then these people break into the church and then kill. They shoot a blank and kill our pastor in front of us. And then they basically call us all these names and leave. And you're just like, what the fuck? Oh shit, I'm going to have to bleep that one out. Like, what just happened? What just happened? They're like, oh my, like, you don't even know what happened. And I remember a guy stands up, he goes, oh no, they killed Pastor John. What should we do? I'm like, I don't know, get the hell out of here, go home, maybe, I don't know, go back to sleep. And there, another counselor's like, oh, we learned today about praying for those who persecute us. We should pray for them. So they made us pray for these people that murdered our pastor. That was fun. And that wasn't the only crazy story, right? They march us back. Everything's fine. We go to sleep. The next day on Wednesday, that night, they make us fast, okay? They say we're going to fast, so we didn't eat dinner that night. The next night, on Thursday, we got to do cultural night, which was super cool. You show up to dinner and there's tables labeled. Some tables, 3 tables in particular, had American, 3 tables had Ethiopian, and 3 tables had Indian. Okay. I didn't know anything about either of those tables. So I'm like, I'm gonna go to the American table. The American table we got cake, which was wild. We had French fries, cheeseburgers, and a can of Coke. And that was incredible. That was like the best you could have ever gotten. India had water, couscous, which is like a rice essentially, and a pita pocket, like a pita bread. Just the bread, nothing inside, just the bread. Ethiopia had it worse. They had half a pita bread and dirty water. And the Ethiopians had to go around the kids at the table and beg for food. And so the moral of the story was to be appreciative of what you have here in America because other countries are struggling, which I guess is a noble theme you can preach. I guess that's fine. But the issue is they didn't freaking feed us afterwards. We didn't get food anymore. We were done. We had no food. And most of the American group gave away their food to the Ethiopian group. And you know who was the only one that ate? The freaking Indian group, right? They're the only ones that ate food. So that was cool, right? And we did a lot of other things. That was probably the 2 notable problems with the camp. The really big issues that came from it, I didn't really have any effects afterwards. I'm going to read to you some things I found on the internet literally today about this, and that's kind of what inspired this episode. I didn't really find, or I didn't really get affected of it. It might have been all the trauma I was dealing with at the time, but nothing really affected me about that one. It was a very interesting time. Now, I was telling the story. No one believed me. And I've been telling the story for years. I think it's a crazy story, right? I've been telling everyone literally for years. So I, my mom has started to believe me. Most people believe me at this point because my story is very consistent. And typically, if you were making up a crazy ass story and you're trying to lie, like things would be added or submitted or whatever, you wouldn't be able to remember it. I'm very clear, right? And so I'm like, my students are like, you should Google it and see if anyone else, like, look at the reviews. So we're looking at the reviews and stuff. And I stumbled across a Reddit thread from 4 years ago on the subreddit Christianity. And it says, wondering if anyone been to this church camp, Hume Lake, CA. It says, hello all. In 2005, when I was a freshman in high school, I went to a Christian camp that I think was called Wildwood in Hume Lake. When we first got there, they took our flip phones, and watched us away, but insisted on keeping us on a very strict schedule. We had to listen out for a conch shell at all times. Then they forced us to fast by refusing to feed us. Okay, the conch shell is important. What I do remember about the conch shell is that the conch shell was there to kind of tell us the next thing to do. And so after the morning like Bible study, we had to go out into the forest. They would encourage us to go out, and they would basically have us read our Bibles and like reflect on it. We had like a journal. We had the journal in, and they would check our journals to make sure we journaled. Right, but what I did instead was I smuggled a Percy Jackson and the Olympians books. I was really into that at the time. Like, we're talking about 2008. So this is about 3 years after this person went, right? And so I smuggled these books in. So I really loved the books. And I'm pretty positive they wouldn't be super thrilled about that. Now, anyways, forward on to the conch shell. They forced us to fast by refusing to feed us. There you go. After about a day and a half without food, that's true, they held a dinner for us where some tables got food and some did not. The lesson was this was a lesson on how life isn't fair between Christians in different countries. Then they forced us to spend nights outside by ourselves praying, and it all came to a head when we went on a hike. Now, the hike that they're going to talk about is the first part of the story. Obviously, in 2005, they switched some things up. The hike was the second day, right? The life isn't fair lesson, that was about the third or the fourth day. That would have been, I think it was a Wednesday or Thursday. Anyways, on this hike, this person continues, they brought out guns and made us lay face down on the ground, asking us why we believed in God. We had to yell our responses. Then they kidnapped us and brought us to where our friends in church had been captured and gathered. Then they took our pastor away from us and his family and pretended to shoot him. Gun noises, screams, and all. We thought we were going to a regular church camp with games and fun, but it was a persecuted church-themed kids camp. So they changed it, obviously. So in mine, we were told to pretend, which is a super cool pretend theme, that we were in a country where Christianity wasn't legal and we had to go find our pastor. They did like hold us at gunpoint and like if they caught you. Some people didn't get caught. They made it to the underground church before the people caught them, but most of them got caught and screamed at, and then eventually they were let go. These persons, they didn't have dogs, I'm assuming, but it was 4 years ago, so they may have forgot about the dogs. I very vividly remember German Shepherds, like 100%. It seems crazy, but I vividly remember dogs. Now, I could be wrong because, again, it was a long time ago, but this person, so far, we've had very similar experiences, okay? Now, she continues. I'm assuming it's she, maybe. Maybe it's a he. I don't know. I want to acknowledge I know this behavior is not typical of Christians. I grew up in the church. This was abuse. I don't blame Christianity, God, Christians, or the church for this experience. I agree with that. But has anyone else been to this place? Have you tried something similar? I would love to figure out how to shut them down. Yes, they still operate. Not sure if they're pointing guns in children's faces, though. Okay. So that was interesting. Let's look at a comment, top comment right here. Trigger warning for the above comment. Okay. So, hi, OP. I also went to Wildwood, but in the summer of 2017, here we go. Not much has changed, down to the taking of electronics and the use of a conch shell. Unfortunately, this is the exact same thing, down to the violence and starvation were carried out also 12 years later. They have evolved their techniques. Not only do they make you go on this hike, they are required it to be at night. Okay, so maybe theirs wasn't at night on the first post. Yeah, I guess there wasn't. I think it was at night, though. Well, mine was at night, but I don't know about this first post. Anyways, in addition to putting prostrating you, I don't know, put you on the ground at gunpoint. They also had single individuals out and forced them up, threatening to kill the others unless you answer their philosophical questions. I was one of these unfortunate people. My question at gunpoint was, if God is good, why did my little sister die? Then they brought out a captive, another adult volunteer, demanded we save this person within 1 minute or they would execute him. Regardless of your attempt, they mock kill him in front of you. Okay, we got that. They also keep the element of killing the pastor once you've all reached the safe worship point. They attempted to execute the pastor, who was a beloved mentor to us, in front of us, but thankfully both their guns jammed with the blanks. They never told us the exercise was over, as they had starved us the day leading up to this, but it was impossible to go to sleep. I remember girls in my cabin couldn't stop crying. 5 years later, I have been diagnosed with PTSD as a result of that night. I'm still in therapy to assist my recovery. I can't stand any loud noises. This is the first time I've ever found someone who shared my experience online. I'm devastated that there are more of us beyond those who attended that camp summer 2017. I wish you the best in your healing. That's wild. So they definitely did crazier things than what I experienced. It's almost like they just kept ramping it up, right? The killing of people is just insane. Like threatening to kill you and then killing a person, then killing your adult pastor you like. Man, that's so wild to me, right? More people kind of come around, right? This lady, the original poster, said that she emailed, I'm assuming it's a she, all right, I apologize if it's a B, but it says, I emailed Hume Lake about the same time I made this post. They confirmed that this was their camp, but explained in one sentence that they no longer traumatize kids. Oh, scratch that. They no longer have these practices. I called a few lawyers and emailed some news outlets, but never found anyone who can help me get the story out to shut them down. Hume Lake Christian Camps is a massive organization that owns the land in Sequoia National Park. You know they had to pitch this persecuted church theme to most likely a very large group of people who thought it was a fine idea and ran for at least 12 more years without any lawsuits. I also spent the night of mass murder crying in the camp bathroom with my friend. There was no meeting or debriefing. They just sent us to bed after traumatizing us, as you state. I left the church after this experience. I went to camp with 2 other people I'm still very close with. We never brought this horrible memory up to each other for a solid 9 years. When we finally recounted what happened together, we were all in shock all over again. Honestly, if you ever have the details or thoughts or managed to do it for 12 years without a lawsuit or have any ideas how to make sure this will never happen, let me know. Okay. This person, again, attended Wildwood 2016 to 2019, had the same experience, sneaked through the woods, yada, yada, yada. Right. They're thanking you. More people come forward. Kidnapped us at night, ran through the woods. I was 13, also diagnosed with PTSD. F that place. Went to summer camp. Gun jamming. Oh, this person might have the same experience. I attended summer camp and definitely remember the gun jamming as well. I'm pretty sure it was staged to show the power of God. Okay, it's an interesting take on it, right? So people kind of come through all of this. I don't know what y'all are witching about. He said the bad word. Hume is great. I haven't done that particular event, but honestly sound thought-provoking and maybe even fun. We in America never have to think about religious persecution in other countries because of our religious freedom. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't. Oh, here we go. 9 months ago, I was at Wildwood from 04 to 05. I remember they did this to us, but got us out of our tent camps at night, had us run through the woods where they all had mock executions. Terrifying. Okay, great. So as I kind of process this whole experience and what I kind of look at, now I definitely did not have PTSD. I definitely did not have any sort of problems. I thought it was kind of funny. And some people ask, like, how is this camp still up and operating? I'm assuming it's really under the guise of, this is what Jesus went through and you're becoming closer to Jesus. And if anyone like tells their parents, I mean, they didn't say deliberately, like, don't tell your parents this happened. They didn't say any of that. Right. But if you are, going through and you're told all this stuff that's, you're going through, like Jesus went through it, and it's really, you're becoming closer to Jesus and becoming closer to God. I mean, if that's what you believe, then why wouldn't you? why wouldn't you go through with the experience and experience that? Now, are there better ways to go through it? Absolutely. Like 100,000%, there are absolute better ways of going through this, right? Some things I think about just off the top of my head. Maybe don't shoot fake guns at kids. I was always taught, I grew up in a very gun strict household. I was always taught that you do not point guns at anyone or anything you're not willing to destroy. Guns are not a toy. I mean, it went so far as my stepdad wouldn't even let us like go to like laser tag or anything like that. Like even violent video games, like unless it was a hunting video game, then maybe, but it was crazy. So this whole thing was wild. And I think if I was so in shock, I was sick, and I really didn't quite not visually, but personally grasp everything going on around, and everyone seemed to be having fun. You just kind of lie to yourself that whatever happened, and that you don't really see what's wrong in it because you're young and naive. I was in 8th grade. I didn't know what was right and wrong. I didn't know you couldn't kidnap a kid and take him out right somewhere. Now, after this whole event, Daniel didn't even freaking go to South Dakota. So that was ruined. I went through this whole experience for nothing. So that was cool. And then me and Daniel kind of grew apart after high school. But this was always a memory I kind of have with the kid. And just to preference, we went to a new church pretty much after Camp Wildwood. And I went to a summer camp. Was this 7th grade, I think? I don't know. I went to a summer camp with the new church, and it was tremendously better. It was a way more fun experience. I had really the best time ever. It was there were some crazy things about it. Maybe I can get into that. Maybe a part 2 of just Christian summer camps. I think these camps are just a lot of them are very I don't know, cringy maybe. For a long while I was against like secular things, and I was like taught that like that was just the devil trying to work its way into my life. Like they believed that that Katy Perry song, the one was it Kanye West's Extraterrestrial, they believed that one was a devil worshiping song because in the Bible it says the devil is like not of this world, and that's kind of what Katy Perry says. I don't know. And it was a long stretch, and I respect the thought. I respect the trying to get it up, but I think the hardest part to understand is if you are going through this, what is there for you. Now, I've never gone through anything like this after. I went to church camps for the rest of my time throughout high school, different ones, and nothing was like this experience. And from what I gather from talking to people who have been to the Ponderosa one or any Hume Lake one, they're extremely similar to the experiences I had growing up, not Wildwood. Wildwood seems to be the one that's way more edgy. We did have a ropes course, which was cool. Like we did a ropes course one day. We did like some things, but Wildwood was so weird. It was wild. And I think if you made a Netflix documentary about Wildwood, people would be like shocked of what they found just in what they found, right? And what the experiences are, because just going through a lot of these Reddit threads, like this isn't the only Reddit thread that I found of people having, experiences like this, right? Anyone familiar with? Anyone else go to Hume Lake, Christian sleepaway camp, right? Super toxic, like separated. So this one right here, it says, I remember, let's see here if I can find the place. Super toxic, especially when they separated the guys and girls and spewed purity culture at the girls. How we're supposed to be responsible to keep men from stumbling. Hated every minute of that camp. Food was also nasty. This girl who's 36 also went to the camp in Hume. I wanted to go to the camp, but I went to the Pines Extreme Camp. So much toxicity. Volleyball was fun. And I think that's what the hardest part is. You have a lot of these churches. I don't think they know how toxic they can become. And I think that's the hardest part, is like tread lightly around the topics. I really don't want to piss anyone off, but I think these churches don't quite understand exactly how toxic they are, right? I think that's the hardest part, is that there are toxicity that comes out in church, and primarily with kids. Right? High school kids are very, they want to be important. They want to be special. And when they go to church sometimes enables them to be special. For example, some churches be like, let's pray. What problems do you have so we can pray about it? Well, if the eyes or the ears or whatever is going to be on me, I'm going to want to have something cool to say. So I'm going to make up a problem or exaggerate a problem so that people feel bad for me. I get more attention and more prayers with quotation marks. And I think that perpetuates kind of a negative culture. And as a teacher, it's something that I think that we have to deal with. And we deal with a lot of things. We deal with crazy parents. We deal with just a wide variety of problems. And I think some of these problems really directly stem from maybe church or Jesus culture, right? And it's not, I shouldn't say Jesus culture. It doesn't stem from religion or Jesus or any of that stuff. It really stems from toxicity in churches, right? And I'm not saying every church is toxic. I'm just saying that sometimes toxic people get there, right? Churches are surrounded by sinful people. They're naturally drawn to churches. That would make sense, right? I won't want to be in church with perfect people. But also, if you have sinful people, they might be doing some negative things for our kids. And I'm not saying every single church. I'm not saying anything like that. Just as a broad statement. And I think a lot of these people have issues. A lot of these people have stuff they need to work out. I'm just looking through all these Reddit threads, and it's really eye-opening. Right now, as we close the podcast on my Hume Lake experience, if you want to hear more of these, or if you want to hear more about this experience and what I think about modern day religion and church, and I kind of got out of the church for quite a while. I didn't go back to church for years. Really, once I left my hometown and went to college, I didn't go back to church, and it wasn't until recently where I really rejoined the place because I really want some sort of community, I guess, of a church. So I kind of went and really figured out how I want to really work on promoting, a healthy life, right? A healthy life. All right. Well, that is it for this podcast. I hope you enjoyed the Joe Schmo podcast or Joe Schmo experience. Maybe I should just change the name. If you want to hear more, make sure you follow me on X or Instagram or really this podcast. All right. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.